Samaches Amud Aleph. But I'm just going to go back and look at the mission. We're actually going to start. We start the Gemara in Samaches Amud Aleph. It's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 lines in the bottom. There's the 2 dots. Okay, and this is. Everybody see it? Maybe not. Rabbi Shmuel. Yeah. I'm sure it's a new piece for you. So we're going to talk tonight a little bit about Tinok Shenishba. Okay, and we'll try to spend some time at the end more explaining it. But to understand what this Gemara is, you have to go back to the Mishnah, which is found on Samach Zayin Amud Bet. Okay, and we're just going to do the Mishnah again slowly. There are 3 cases, and the complicated part in this Gemara is that each case is open to a somewhat of interpretation. You'll remember that in order to be considered shogeg, in order to be amazed, it means you know what the Aveira is and you did it, right? Shogeg means you forgot what the Aveira was, or you forgot something about the Aveira. We'll actually see how much you have to forget. But we'd normally, if you simply, before we come to this Gemara, we'd ask, what does it mean shogeg? I forgot, right? I forgot that chazer is not kosher, and I ate chazer. Or I forgot that I forgot that I forgot that I can't have chametz on Pesach, right? So we're just starting up. So one form of shogeg is you forget what the aveira is, right? Another form of shogeg could be, if it's, for example, about Yontif, not I forgot about that the chametz is aser, I forgot today was Pesach, right? There could be another example. So that's going to come up with time-bound halachas, right? That could not come up with eating chazer, because chazer is always aser. The only shogeg could be you forgot that chazer was prohibited, or
you didn't realize this piece of meat was
you didn't realize this piece of meat was chazer, right? You know chazer is also, you didn't know the piece of meat was prohibited. And another variation, or tweaked variation, would be I never learned that chazer was aser, not that I knew chazer. So actually, that's going to be some of our discussion today. Okay. So in other words, but really everything has different ways. It's going to be Samachet Amud Aleph, 12 lines in the bottom, but we're looking back at the Mishnah before we get into the Gemara. The Mishnah is on the bottom of Samach Zayin Amud Bet. So there's all kinds of ways that can happen. The same thing with Shabbos, right? It could be that I forgot today was Shabbos, right? Or I forgot that I can't do Malach on Shabbos, right? Or I lost track of the days. Well, it's almost the same thing. Or I know it's Shabbos, but I forgot that this malacha is prohibited.
right. Sure.
I forgot that I can't light a fire on Shabbos. I don't know, it slipped my mind, right? And a tweak of all of this about the Shabbos is going to be: what if you never learned it? What if you never learned it Shabbos? No one ever taught you. This is a term that we're going to talk about tonight. Tinok Shenishba, which means literally a child, a baby, who was taken captive and raised among non-Jews, and was not raised in the Jewish community, and had no sense of what Shabbos really is. So that's now, in our modern society, they may have implications about secular Jews, right? Some of the discussion comes up in modern Israel today. How do you treat Chiloniim? So you could say they don't really know what they're doing, or they don't understand, appreciate the difficulty. Some people actually deny that connection because they say it's not true, because if you want to learn today, it's not possible not to know that what Judaism is, because there are all kinds. No matter what kind of Chiloni you are in Israel, there are surely religious Jews walking around. Okay, so you have a general sense of, if you want to know, where to find out.
Plus there's Google.
Plus there's Google. Correct. But you know what? But you don't know what to ask. In order to do Google, you need to know what to put in.
Correct. Okay. But if you wanted to know, you could just Google it.
Right. As opposed to the traditional Tinok Shenishba, which had no opportunity. There's a discussion, by the way, in some of the Tshuvot where the Karaites are considered Tinok Shenishba. There was a significant Karaite community in Europe, and they've pretty much died out now. That existed sometimes symbiotically with the Jewish community, but they did not keep, of course, the oral law. They had their own traditions, and do they consider them Tinok Shenishba? When they were kidnapping kids to put them into the Russian army, what were they called now? The Cantonists, right? Yeah. So that may be another example, because even though they learned about it, they were subjected to, they couldn't get out to 35 or 40 or something like that. and it was very difficult in any way to try to keep any semblance of Judaism. So that may or may not have been another example. But the simple meaning of the word is a tinok shenishba, child that was not raised and given opportunity, was kidnapped before they had any conscious knowledge. Another variation of this will be, and this may sound very strange to us, a ger that was converted and was raised among Gentiles. Okay, in other words, a ger was converted. Now you say, well, how don't they teach the ger everything? And the answer is actually they don't teach the ger everything. Not in the old days and not even in the new days. I mean, today it would be hard to really convert people if you didn't teach them everything. If you didn't teach them, give them a primer about Jewish laws, because so much is available. But actually, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, you're supposed to teach them mixas chamuros and mixas kalos. You're supposed to teach them some significant easy laws, some significant difficult laws. Traditionally, it's like Shabbos, tzedakah, and a number of others. But nowhere does it ever say that you need to teach them all 613 commandments. The assumption is they will learn it if they're really interested in being Jews. They'll learn it on their own. But if, for example, if you had a ger who was converted properly, but then settled and was, and the task was to learn all the other laws and settled among an area where there was no support system, and unfortunately sometimes that happens, then you really never finish you finish the process, the conversion process, but you're deficient in your knowledge. It's hard to imagine that for Shabbos, but you surely could probably do that for some other laws.
Oh, you mean absolutely not, yeah.
Right. There are probably laws that come up very infrequently. Maybe like a law about, I don't know, Kiddush Levana, a law about Kiddush Chama, we do once every 28 years, you make a bracha on the sun. So if you don't know that the law exists, you'll miss that opportunity. And probably other things as well. For example, here's a good example, you could be a very very strict Jew, and you end up going to Eretz Yisrael, and you don't know laws about Shumos and Maisros. That's a good example. You happen to be you're traveling on your own, you don't know what to ask. So there's an example where someone who never had it suddenly finds a whole new set of laws. Anyways, that's the introduction. So that's Tinok Shenishba. The key to Tinok Shenishba is the child, the adult, that is now had never had an opportunity to learn, and therefore not only forgot, never learned. Okay? Now, before we go ahead, just to give you away some of what's the upcoming attractions, if you assume that a Tinok Shenishba is going to do something, how would you categorize that?
Totally innocent.
Totally. So would you consider that like shogeg, or would you consider it like ones? Right? So that's going to be some of the discussion. Like you said, totally innocent. Totally innocent means, there's nothing they did nothing wrong. On the other hand, you could say, well, they did nothing wrong, but they did do something wrong. Should they be any different than a person who forgot was Shabbos? They also did nothing wrong. Right? So that's going to be some of the connection to it. Now, to complicate things, and this is the piece of Gemara we're going to get into, it's how to read what the cases are in this Mishnah. So I'm going to spend a few minutes looking at the Mishnah. If you write in your Gemara, I don't know if you do or you don't, I'm not going to force you to, but if you want to mark the cases that they come up and put a 1 and a 2 and a 3, it'd probably be helpful when we go back and look at this, okay? So let's go back to the Mishnah on Kuf, on Samach Zayin Amud Bet. Klal Gadol Amar B'Shabbos. They said a great rule in Shabbos. Now that's not the important part for us that we did last week. Why is it a great rule, not a regular rule? So case number 1, this is the one, right after the word Shabbos and before Kol. Kol Shochech Ikar Shabbos. How would you translate that? A person who was chocheach, forgot. A person forgot Ikar Shabbos. What does Ikar Shabbos mean? There is a Shabbos. Okay, the person is so far afield, so far away from Jewish tradition and Jewish values or Jewish learning that he forgot that there is no Shabbos in the Torah. Okay, forget malachos, forget what Shabbos is, forget it. He doesn't even know there's a Shabbos. Okay, so and if you read the word simply, he knew and he forgot. Kol shochech ikar Shabbos, v'yasa malachos harbe, and he did many malachos over many Shabbosos. Eino chayav l'chatas. How many aveira stamps does he get, so to speak? How many korban chatas does he have to bring? 1. Right, because it is so basic a lack of knowledge or a forgetting of knowledge that he's chayav 1. Even if he did not keep Shabbos for all these years, it's 1 Shabbos, one chait. Okay, that's case number 1. Now the Gemara is going to try to tweak it a little bit differently, so that's why I'm saying if you put the 1 there, it's going to be easy to reference it to. 2 lines in the bottom in the Mishnah. The next case is Hayodea Ikar Shabbos. Person knows there is something called Shabbos. They know that there is a Shabbos. V'asa malachos harbe b'Shabbosos harbe. And he did many malachos over many different Shabbosim. So chayav al kol Shabbos for Shabbos. He's chayav one for each Shabbos. Now the part of this sentence that's missing is he forgot that today was Shabbos.
Right.
Okay, so he knows there's Shabbos. He knows Shabbos is prohibited, but he forgot today is Shabbos. And he thought it was Friday, Sunday. He changed the clock. He changed the clock really the wrong way. Okay, he changed his clock on whatever he reset his things to a different day. Okay, instead of changing from 1 to 2, he changed the date from 1 to 2 or something. So that doesn't sound like it's that common, but whatever it is, it's possible that the tricky part here is not that he forgets Shabbos. It's very possible. I don't think anyone would think it's out of the question that you could be asleep and wake up, right, and forget it's Shabbos, right? The tricky part is what happens if this goes from Shabbos to Shabbos. What if I forget the entire Shabbos? So if I forget the entire Shabbos and I did many malachos, how many chatasses do I bring? 1. Okay. What about if I forgot multiple Shabbosim? I forgot it was Shabbos last week. Next week comes, I still forget it's Shabbos. My clock is still off.
Right. You still think it's Sunday.
I still think. All right. Or and eventually this will get into the Gemara. We're not going to get to today about wandering in the desert and you lose track of days.
Like international dateline
Right.
almost.
Okay, or a dateline. Right, there you go. Dateline is a good example. You don't know how to calculate the date according to the Jewish dateline, which is not necessarily going to be the same as the international dateline of convention. So, you keep Shabbos the wrong day. You're in Hawaii, for example. Okay, there's an example. There's a good case. So the Mishnah says, if you forgot you knew Shabbos, you learned Shabbos, you know what Shabbos is prohibited, but you didn't know that today is Shabbos, you didn't know that last Shabbos was Shabbos, you didn't know the Shabbos before was Shabbos, this goes on for a long time, you are chayav for each Shabbos one chatos. Now, the question is really why? No one told you that there was Shabbos in the middle, right? So the Rashi says that it's not possible that you could not. It's highly unlikely. I want to say it's not possible. It's highly unlikely that you would not have remembered something about a Shabbos, what day it was, from one week to another. So you have to assume that someone may have said something. Someone would have shown you a calendar. Someone would have set an appointment for you, and you would have known that it was, and it just popped into your head and popped out of your head very quickly. So as a result, we assume it reasonably possible that you would have learned that it was a Shabbos, and therefore every Shabbos becomes a new forgetting. Even though the example I presented to you looks like he only forgot, it's one long forgetting all along, right?
And it's 1 korban for each Shabbos.
So therefore, it's 1 korban for each Shabbos. Okay. Now, because he doesn't know it's Shabbos. So we've said at least you chayav 1 chatas per Shabbos, but it's only one thing that you forgot. You forgot Shabbos. What if you did multiple malachos? You lit a fire, you built a house, you knocked the house down, you do tan skins. So it's still only one, because it's not even up to that. We're looking at what you actually forgot. Remember, what makes Shabbos unique is the fact that it's about time, which is not just unique, but also there are different malachos. Right? We have different laws for different holidays, but they're usually not like parallel kinds of things. You can't eat chametz, and you have to get rid of chametz. You can't eat chametz. You can't benefit from chametz. That's really a chametz law. And then you have to eat matzah, but that's a mitzvah to say. But you have nowhere else really where you have like 39 different malachos that all can be done, right, normally, or not done normally, and you could do them in the same Shabbos. But you're not even forgetting about malachas. You forgot today is Shabbos.
Two people can do the same work, and depending on
what they forgot,
thinking, they would bring different korbans.
Different amount of korban.
Different amount of korbans.
That's correct. That's correct. Precisely right. It's a very.
Because Shabbos, he brings one. He forgot, tanning and something else.
Yeah.
That's correct. Right.
It doesn't say shochech, but the implication is
right.
Means shochech. Right?
So correct. So it means, so what is missing here is the word ikar Shabbos shavashochach. That is Shabbos Hayom. V'shochach Shabbos Hayom. V'asa malachos harbe. So it's case number 2. If you want to put the 2, it's the beginning of the second line from the bottom Hayodea. Okay. So the first case was you never heard about Shabbos. I'm sorry. The first case was you learned about Shabbos and forgot about it. And right now, at this moment, you have no inkling about a concept called Shabbos. Right. right? And the second case is you learned about Shabbos, you knew about Shabbos, likely you knew about malachas of Shabbos, but you forgot today is Shabbos, and this can go on for multiple times, one chatas per Shabbos. Okay, third case. And that's the second word on the last line. I'm sorry. Hayodea. Hayodea shu Shabbos. The third case is you know it's Shabbos, and you know the Shabbos is prohibited in malachos, or maybe not. Okay, you know today is Shabbos. What did you forget? V'yasa malachos harbe b'Shabbos harbe, and you did various malachos did various different Shabbosim week after week, and you didn't know either you didn't know they were doing a malacha, or you didn't know the malacha was prohibited. But that's not the same. Either you didn't know you're doing a malacha, right? Or you didn't know that the malacha that you're doing is a prohibited act. Okay? So that's called shogeg. Okay? Like, for example, I said that cleaning a stain off a shirt, you take water and wipe the stain off the shirt, that's going to be, what do you call malabin? It's washing. It's really, you're dyeing. Not dyeing, but you're washing it. Now, it's not a washing machine. A person says it doesn't even think that's really a prohibited act. That's a shogeg. And every week they do that, or every week they do multiple malachas. So for each thing they didn't know what they're doing, they're going to be chayav a korban chatas. So what's the maximum number of korban chatas you could do per week? 39. If you hit the jackpot. Okay, if you do every malacha, not every malacha is that hard, that's so easy to do, right? Some are more complex, right? To do minat Torah, of course, right? This is all Torah level. We are not talking about the Rabbanon cases. Rabbinic averos, rabbinic shkagos is what's called pater aval aser, or aser aval pater, and you don't bring korban chatas. Okay, so three cases, you got them again. Once again, you forgot that it's Shabbos. Altogether, how many chatas do you bring? One. Total, lifetime max of one, right? You learned the Shabbos, and you forgot today is Shabbos, and you did multiple chatos, one per Shabbos. In other words, maximum per Shabbos of one. Okay, lifetime max equals the number of Shabboses. Right. The last case is you know it's Shabbos, but you forgot the malacha is a malacha. You forgot the malacha is prohibited. So it's each malacha that you do, your chayiv maximum is 39 per week. Okay. Now, what is the case that I didn't mention? And that's the case about the tinok shenishba. And I was very careful not to tell you that, even though the Gemara is going to start with that. But the simple reading of the Mishnah is the cases that I gave you.
The last line?
Oh, I'm sorry. And Yodeshu Shabbos Vos Malachas Harbe Shabbos Harbe Chayev Al Kol Av Malacha. Period. The last word, last piece of this Mishnah, is not about you forgetting. It's just telling you the maximum number is going to be one chatas per malacha. So therefore, also malachos harbe mei malachachas. If you do many malachos of the same type of malacha, like plant the tree, plant the seed, okay, or a malacha and a tolda, which are both the rices, you only chayav one chatas. So it's the same I'm saying you can only a max of 39. Okay, ready? Tighten your seatbelts. 12 lines, Samaches with Aleph, for 12 lines in the bottom. Rav Shmuel. So Rav and Shmuel, we're going to have Rav and Shmuel. We're going to have Reish Lakish, Rav Yochanan, and Reish Lakish. And we're going to see that there's two versions or two ways to understand Rav and Shmuel, and we have to make it fit into our Mishnah. Rav and Shmuel, the Amrei Travaya both say Masnisam betinok shenishpa lebein hanachrim, v'gesh niskay lebein hanachrim. They say the case of the Mishnah, the first case of the Mishnah, is not what I kind of set you up to say to think it is, that you knew it was Shabbos and now you forgot completely it was Shabbos.
That there is such a thing as Shabbos.
Right, you learned there was such a thing as Shabbos and you forgot that there's such a thing as Shabbos. The case in the Mishnah, the first line, case number 1, that's why I told you to write the 1 there, is a case of Tinok Shenishpa, where the kid was kidnapped as a baby, never learned Shabbos, was kidnapped by pagans, and never had an opportunity to learn about Shabbos, or Gersh Niskaya Levena Nachrim, or a convert who was converted properly, not that he was converted by Gentiles, because you need a court, you need a beis din, right? But however, a ger does not have to learn everything to become a ger. A ger has to commit to everything. Let's be careful. I want to make sure I say this. A ger has to make a kabbalah some mitzvos, and a ger is taught much of the Torah. You don't have to teach the ger everything. Now, in a modern society, if the ger does not learn about what the Torah is, he's probably going to get really confused. If the ger does not live in a Jewish community, it's going to be even more confusing. So I don't know of any rabbi or any Orthodox rabbi that would do a conversion unless the person is committed to mitzvot and has undergone a course of study, right, for a very significant period of time, and lives within walking distance of a shul. Because if you don't live within walking distance of a shul, chances are you're going to not progress and learn the rest of the Torah. Because you're just trying to figure out who you are. Okay?
And he's not looking to get married to a Jewish girl.
Well, that's very complex.
Yeah.
That's extremely complex, which I don't want to get into today. If I have time at the end, I can talk about it. No.
Yeah, but today I would say it's
All I'll say is the idea of being a convert in order to get married is probably different today than it was 120 or 100, 200 years ago. Because back then, right, when our parents or grandparents were immigrants, it was a big shanda to marry outside the faith. So there were social reasons that you would want to do it. But today, there's no shanda.
To marry a convert.
To marry a guy. To marry outside.
Oh, I see.
Right. So a person who says, I want to convert because I want to marry a Jewish girl, there's got to be something that underlies it. I'm not saying it's the best convert, but I'm saying it's definitely not the same kind of external reason that would force someone to convert, because if the guy didn't convert, the grandfather or father was not going to let the girl get married to him. They run off and get married, or they shack up. We live in a world without solid values. Anything goes. Right? So people can bail out of Judaism anytime and any way without having to have a worry that the guy's going to convert or not convert. So that's just in terms of looking at side. So I don't want to say that this is okay or ideal, but it's definitely not the same way it was looked at. I do want to say, by the way, that usually, not usually, sometimes, not even usually, sometimes the convert has good intentions and is pulled back, recidivates because of the Jewish spouse.
absolutely.
That's right.
Okay?
And the convert may learn more than the Jewish spouse knew.
Right, but in order to progress,
Sure.
but in order to that's correct. That's correct. And many times, a rabbi who undertakes a prospective convert who wants to get married or is going out with a Jewish girl or Jewish boy, by the way, it could be either way, requires that they both come
Absolutely.
to learn and study.
Sure.
Because one without the other is not going to fly.
Absolutely.
Okay? Okay? So it's very complex. But it's right, that's all I'm just pointing out, just to kind of keep at least this piece simple for us, is the case we're talking about, the ger is not a ger who converted by goyim, or a ger who converted himself and says, I want to be Jewish. Rather, it's a ger who was converted properly, but the ger remained where he was among non-Jews. So as a result, he learned, or he never really learned, that there's a concept called Shabbos, hard as it is to believe. Okay, so anyway, before we just understand, what does Rav Shmuel say? Case number one is not about he learned that there was a Shabbos and now he forgot there was a Shabbos.
Right.
It's about a lower level of understanding. He never heard about Shabbos. Either he was raised as a Gentile or he converted, never learned to be what Shabbos is. So that's it. So in other words, what I'm doing now, what the Gemara is doing, is going to try to move down one level for each of the cases. Okay, and that's going to be the tricky part to see how it fits in. Because if I say that case one is about a person who never learned, never heard about Shabbos, case two, which seems to kind of make a bump up level, is going to maybe be about a person who learned about Shabbos and forgot about Shabbos. Not that they learned that Shabbos is prohibited and they forgot the day of Shabbos. Do you see how it's getting a little complicated? It's tweaking a little bit. So, but let's go back. Let's read again. Rav Shmuel Damar Tavai Masnisa Betinok Shnish Belabein Anachrim V'Gesh Niskal Bein Anachrim. Aval Hikir B'Sov Shachach Chayev Al Kol Shabbos V'Shabbos. However, according to Rav and Shmuel, a person who knew that it was Shabbos, knew the essence of Shabbos, and forgot the essence of Shabbos, should be Chayev one Chatas for each Shabbos. Okay? Does that make sense so far?
When it says shachach, it's still shachach that the Ikar is the Shabbos, or shachach that today's Shabbos?
Well, it means, what it really means is what, well, the question is what shochach mean. In your case number one?
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well, case number one, I always thought, when we first read it, was he forgot that there even is such a thing as
Correct.
Shabbos, let's say.
Correct. Correct.
Which you could say a Tinok Nishba would be that kind of person.
Well, if you go back to the words, and the Gemara is going to ask this in a moment, go back to case number 1 in the Mishnah, Kol Shochech Iker Shabbos.
Right.
I asked you when I first read this, how did you translate it? And someone said it was a Shtinok Shenishba, I think, or something. No? What does Shochech means?
Forgot.
You forgot. In order to forget, what do you have to do? You have to learn it.
Right.
So what does Rav and Shmuel now say that case really is? They just said it. They never learned it. So what does Shochach mean? Okay, so now guess who the Gemara is not going to forget that. There's a pun there. Okay. So Aval Hikar v'Sof Shochach Chayv Kol Shabbos v'Shabbos. So the Gemara says, wait, Tanan HaShochech Ikar Shabbos Lav Mechlal Dahav related Diyamei Kara. When it says in case number 1, you forgot, doesn't mean you knew. You can't forget if you didn't know. So the Gemara gives an answer because they want to reconcile this with Rav Shmuel. Remember, Rav Shmuel make the statement that this is about Tinok Shenishba. Ostensibly, this may be the situation where it's going to change eventually for Rav Shmuel. Ostensibly, if you never learned, you're chayav for one chatas for everything. If you learned and forgot, you're more culpable. Right. So you be chayav for every Shabbos. Mm-hmm. This is the premise the Gemara is working with. Now, that may not be the right premise, but we're going to assume for now it is the right premise until the Gemara knocks it off on Amud Bet. So what does it mean? So the Gemara says, Lo, Maish kol shochech ikar Shabbos, sh'dahaita shechuach mimeno. It doesn't mean he forgot it. It means it was forgotten. Shechuach means not that he forgot.
Absent from him.
Right, it was absent from him. Okay, so Rashi says, Shohaisa shchucha mimeno me'olam. It was completely forgotten, completely eliminated, never happened. Okay, that's not exactly a simple reading of the line.
No.
Okay, so now what do? We've kind of squeezed in the case, the statement of Rav Shmuel into our Mishnah, right? Yeah. And we're also going to tell you that it's going to change the other cases in the Mishnah as well, because each bump up one or bump down one, depending on what you do. And this is really because Rav Shmuel made the statement that the Mishnah is talking about Tinok Shenishba,
and they both agree.
And they both agree to that. Right, they both agree, as opposed to Rav and Shmuel, which normally argue.
They both agree.
So what is not negotiable, is to say that Rav and Shmuel said that the Mishnah, the first case of the Mishnah, is about Tinok Shenishba, and therefore we're going to try to jump hoops to try to make the rest of the Mishnah fit into that. I know normally you want to keep the Mishnah and destroy the Amora, but this is such a strong statement, and we know it refers to the first case in the Mishnah. We have to try to squeeze the rest of the Mishnah in to make it work. So far, so good? Okay. So right now, once again, just to remember where we are, according to Rav Shmuel, a Tinok Shenishba, who never learned Shabbos and broke multiple Shabboses, would have we have what? One chatas, lifetime max. Right. However, a person who learned there was a Shabbos and forgot there was Shabbos, forgot the concept of Shabbos, ostensibly would be one Shabbos, one chatas per Shabbos. Okay? Okay, let's go ahead. Aval, what about case number 2? What would happen to case? What would happen to if the person knew and forgot? Chayva kol Shabbos for Shabbos. So that's exactly what we said until now. This is none of the cases here. We're saying case number 1 was not shochech but shachuach, which means if he knew Shabbos and then forgot it, he'd be chayav 1 for every Shabbos. So the Gemara says as follows. Adatani, what happens after case 1? You have case 2. Hayodeh ikar Shabbos v'yasam malachos harbe v'shavasas harbe chayav kol Shabbos v'Shabbos. The Mishnah gave case number 2 as the bump up case. What was case number 2? You knew there was Shabbos.
Right.
What did you forget?
You forgot that it was Shabbos today, I think. No?
You forgot there was Shabbos today. Right. If you knew there was Shabbos and you forgot there was Shabbos today and you did all the malachos, how many chatas you chayav for each one? For each one, 1. Right. So the Gemara says, if I wanted to give a bigger chiddush, I could have said instead of that case, listen, if I wanted to give you a bigger chiddush about being chayav 1 chatas per Shabbos, don't give me a case where I knew it was Shabbos and I forgot today was Shabbos. Give me a case where I knew Shabbos and I forgot Shabbos. I forgot Iker Shabbos. And I'm chayav 1 per Shabbos. let me just put it like this.
You knew Shabbos and there was...
In other words, the second case is we read it. Okay, stay with me, guys. Second case is we read it is I knew it was Shabbos. I know Shabbos, and I forgot that today is Shabbos. Hayodeik or Shabbos, and I told you it's missing from the reading, and I forgot today is Shabbos, right? And I did multiple malachas. I have one. Right, and then same thing next week. And why am I chayav for each Shabbos? We assume I somewhere told me along the line from Shabbos to Shabbos that it was Shabbos. Okay, it's not possible I go for 8 days without knowing which day of the week it really is. Now we're saying, but according to Rav and Shmuel, that say if I never learned Shabbos, I'm chayav one for my lifetime, and if I learned Shabbos and forgot it, I'd be chayav one per Shabbos. Why isn't case number 2 that case? Why is case number 2 like I know about Shabbos, but I forgot today is Shabbos, and I'm chayav one for each Shabbos? A greater chiddush, it's a greater standout to say that I learned there was something called Shabbos, I forgot there was Shabbos,
I forgot there was a Shabbos.
I forgot there was a Shabbos, and now I'm chayav one for each Shabbos. Right? Am I making sense? Okay, let me give you a handout, but I only want you to look at one line. Okay. Just look at the first horizontal box. There you go. There's more than here. Just keep one for me. Just deal with number one.
There's one over here.
One here? Okay. Number 1, Rav and Shmuel. Don't look at the rest, they'll just confuse you. According to Rav and Shmuel, someone who never knew about Shabbos, how many chatas do you have to do? Lifetime, 1 chatas, right? There's nothing new here that you haven't learned. Someone knew about Shabbos but forgot it was Shabbos, chayev for each Shabbos. I knew there's something about Shabbos, and I forgot anything about Shabbos when Shabbos came. So I'd be chayev for each chatas. Now, which is a greater chiddush? The case number 1b, to say I'm chayev for each Shabbos, or to say, no, and not only I knew about Shabbos, I knew today was Shabbos, and I forgot today was Shabbos, and next week I knew Shabbos, I forgot it was Shabbos, and I chayev for each one. That's not as big a deal. I understand why you chayev for each one. But this rule is a greater chiddush.
B you're saying?
B1, or 1b.
Yeah.
To say that I learned about Shabbos, and now I forgot completely that there is something called Shabbos. Now I forgot today's Shabbos. It's out of my mind. I did a brain sweep.
Right.
I forgot there's even something called Shabbos.
Right.
To say that is going to be chayav for each Shabbos. Oh, I would normally think it's only one. We just said, according to Rav and Shmuel, that the one that's only one max is the Tinok Shenishba.
Right.
Which means if he learned, the only time he's chayav is when he never learned. If he learned and he forgot the essence of Shabbos, he should be chayav for each Shabbos.
It should be the same as number 1, really, shouldn't it?
These two should be the same.
No. If he knew, you say he knew it. He didn't have a concept of Shabbos at all.
Right.
Okay.
He never had.
He never had this.
Right. So what you're saying is B and A should be the same thing.
He went by Rav and Shmuel.
Maybe not.
In a way.
So let's not get there until we get to the second side, okay? But right now, just hold this together. I know it's complicated, but in other words, once again, if you learn that the first case in the Mishnah is a case about a Tinok who never learned anything about Shabbos, and that's for 1 maximum chatas, the person who learned something and now forgot that there's anything about Shabbos, and we assume that forgetting, there's always some active reason why you forget. Right? It's not as important because your brain gets filled with other things. But you learned it. You have a responsibility. If you learned it, you should keep it in your mind. So then you're more culpable. If you're more culpable, then if you learned it was Shabbos, if you learned about the concept of Shabbos and forgot about the concept of Shabbos, you should be more culpable and be chayav 1 for each chatas. That's a more significant statement than to say you're chayav for each Shabbos than the present case that's in the Mishnah, which is about, I know about Shabbos. I never forgot Shabbos, but I forgot that today is Shabbos.
In your case, says he totally forgot it was Shabbos.
Are reviewing the chatas as a punishment, or reviewing it as an opportunity to atone for an aveira?
That's actually a good question. That's an excellent question. But I think what the Gemara is trying to do here is to say it signifies what exactly you did wrong or how much you did wrong. Right? Now you're right, it is an expiation. Correct. On the other hand, there is something that is considered ones that's completely off the map. There's no chatas.
Yeah.
Right? Right. So
Because you were saying last week that a quarter
Amazing.
of chatas could be a mincha.
yes.
So we're talking here about an insignificant amount of money.
Actually, if it's a mincha every week. Now if it's a mincha every week.
Okay, so mincha every week. I mean, we're talking about.
I don't know. You know what?
People didn't have to eat. People didn't
You know the famous millionaire Bunker Hunt. They said one of the reasons he became rich was he always brown bagged lunch. They said, look how much I'm saving. I said, what's he saving? $10 on a sandwich every day, $50. It's not how he became a gvir. But this was an attitude about saving money. Correct. Bottom line is, you're right. You could argue this statement. The premise is not correct, which eventually the Gemara will have to come to agree to. But right now we're assuming the more knowledge that you have that you forget, the more culpability you have that you can get expiation. It's culpability that you can wipe out with expiation because after all you forgot. You didn't intentionally do it, but it indicates greater culpability.
But that B, are they saying that that's what Rav and Shmuel would have said or should have said?
Yes, correct. Yes,
right?
they assume that's what they would have said.
That's what
Right.
they're saying, that's what they should
Right.
have
The only thing that we know that Rav and Shmuel actually said
was A.
was A.
Yeah.
Right, but they're implying that that's what Rav and Shmuel would have said or should have said.
Correct. Right.
The B.
Right. So 1A is not negotiable.
Right.
Right. Okay. We're assuming what happens into the bump up cases in the Mishnah. The Mishnah gave you 3 cases, so each one has a little more culpability.
Right.
So the first case, according to Rav and Shmuel, is a case where they never learned.
Right.
And that's how we interpreted case number 1 in the Mishnah.
Right.
The extension of that, or the bump up case, should be that you knew it when you forgot it was Shabbos.
Right.
Right?
But then there's
Or no, you forgot the essence of Shabbos, and you're right. But the next case in the Mishnah is that you forgot that today is Shabbos.
Right.
So that's the Gemara's question. Okay, let's read it inside. Now that you know what it is, you may be able to follow it in the words. So, Lisnei, let the case be, Hikir b'sof Shabbos, v'kol shekain ha. Right. I'm sorry, Hikir b'sof Shochach, thank you, v'kol shekain ha. So the Gemara says, well, you got us, but so the only way out of this is we have to reinterpret case number 2, okay, to equal 1b. Okay, so what are we saying now? It says Hayodei Iker Shabbos, Hayodei Iker Shabbos, my Hayodei Iker Shabbos, Misha Hayodei Ikar Shel Shabbos. Not that you knew today was Shabbos and you forgot. You knew the essence of Shabbos and V'shachar forgot it. Okay, which you could theoretically read into the words of the Mishnah. Avalo shachacha. Now, so what happens? So that takes care of case 1 and 2. Okay, what about the next case? So if I never learned Shabbos, according to Rav and Shmuel, I have 1 chatas all the way through. If I learned about Shabbos and forgot it, I'm chayav 1 per Shabbos. Right. What now happens if I forgot today was Shabbos?
Right.
Okay. So my chayav akol malacha. So in other words, I didn't forget Shabbos. I didn't forget the essence of Shabbos. But in other words, I forgot that today is Shabbos. Avalo shachacha. I didn't forget the essence of Shabbos, but I forgot today is Shabbos. What would be the bump up now? My chayav akol malacha. So I should be chayav for each malacha. That's going back to which case would that be? 3. But the case of 3 is not about forgetting that today is Shabbos. The case of number 3 is I know it was Shabbos. I forgot malachas. Right. So adatani shu Shabbos v'yas. Now, therefore, the third case, hayadeh shu Shabbos v'yas malachas harbe b'Shabbos harbe chayv al kol malacha. If you want to give me the case, which is case number 3, which says, I knew it was Shabbos, don't give me an example of where I knew today is Shabbos. Give me a case where I knew and remembered the essence of Shabbos, even though I forgot today is Shabbos. In other words, the same question we asked before about bumping it up should be about bumping up from case number 2 to number 3. That's not in the charts. I can't help you with the chart. Okay. Do you understand the case in general? So the cases don't work out. So I saved the first case, I saved the second case, but I come to the third case, it suddenly begins to break. Okay? So the Gemara says, well, you're right. The premise that we worked with is not correct. Okay? So let's move on to that. So what has to be correct once again? What's non-negotiable for Rav Shmuel?
Well, if you never learned, then you have a
Right.
lifetime.
1A is non-negotiable.
Sure.
Okay? But now the Gemara comes to the second premise. This is line 2, which says, you're right. Rav Shmuel say that a tinok shenishba is going to be chayav 1 chatas. Okay. However, if you learned about Shabbos and you forgot about Shabbos, it's still only 1 chatas. That's what I think. What a lot of you wanted to say earlier, right? Mr. Muller wanted to say it for sure, right? No. In other words, the fact that the tinok shenishba never learned, right, is not a reason to exempt him from a chatas, but he still have 1 chatas.
Right.
So that's the case in the Mishnah. But the first case in the Mishnah is also about you knew there was a concept called Shabbos, and you forgot about that, right? And now you still have one karma chatas. There's not really a difference between the two. So therefore, the Gemara is going to say line 2, the first case, the tinok shenishba is 1 chatas, and if you studied and forgot the concept of Shabbos, it's also 1 chatas. Okay?
Right.
Lifetime
a
max.
person who doesn't know there's such a thing as Shabbos, whether he never learned it or forgot it, is in the same position.
Chayav 1. So when Rav and Shmuel made the statement that the Mishnah talks about a tinok shenishba, what does it really mean to say? Even a tinok shenishba. Not only that I learned about Shabbos and I forgot about it, the fact that I never learned about it, ignorance is no reason for a complete exemption. Right? It may be that if you don't know about Shabbos, you never bring a korban chatas. But in terms of culpability, that every Jew has a requirement to learn at least there's a concept of Shabbos. This is so basic to being a Jew. So even if you're raised in a foreign environment, or you never heard about Shabbos, you have a responsibility to figure it out, or you will figure it out, or its chances are you'll figure it out. So let's pick up what the Gemara answer is. There's a 5th line on Amud Beis. Ella masnisan kishihikal b'sof Shabbos. The Mishnah is about where you learned about Shabbos and you forgot there was a concept called Shabbos altogether. For Rav Shmuel nami kihikal b'sof shachach dami. And the case of tinok shenishba is also the same thing. Okay? V'hachi yitmar. And this is how you really should understand Rav Shmuel. Rav Shmuel di'amar tavayhu, and here's the key word. Afilu tinok shenishba ben anachim v'ger sheniskal ben anachim kihikal b'sof shachach dami v'chayav. Okay? So far so good?
Still chayav 1 is what they mean.
You chayav 1, right. So the conclusion about Rav and Shmuel is 2. And that, by the way, stays for Rav and Shmuel. That's the line that Rav and Shmuel lives with. However, Rav and Shmuel are not the only players in the book. Okay? So the Gemara goes on. We have 2 other great bar pluktes who suddenly got together and united on the following thing. Okay? And some of you will understand this because you said it before. So, where is it? Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish, right? Di'amar Tavayu. Davka hikil b'sof shachach. Only if you studied the malachas, the Shabbos, and you forgot there's a Shabbos, are you going to be chayav 1? Aval tinok shenishba ben anachrim, but a person who never studied and ger sheniskal ben anachrim, potter. Is potter completely. Okay, completely potter. Right?
Better case that you didn't even know you're Jewish.
Right. Oh, well, with this, that's correct. You didn't even know you're Jewish. That's what tinok shenishba means.
Oh, I thought they
No.
didn't know they're Jewish.
It could be either. It really could be either. It could be either one.
So,
Right.
but the first one,
Right.
Davka hikir v'sof shachach, so he's saying, assuming that you, like the Abal Tinok Shenishba, etc., they're patur, that's clear. That's the first one.
Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish. Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish
yeah.
is line 3.
Yeah.
It's 3. 3 in the chart that you have.
Oh, I was looking at the...
Okay, that's why I gave you the chart. So 2 becomes the conclusion of Rav Yochanan and Rav and Shmuel, and 3 is the opinion of Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chatas, that's
which
what-
says really that only chatas is if you studied, If you learned there was a Shabbos concept, but if you never heard there was a Shabbos, either you didn't know you were Jewish, or you knew you're Jewish and you didn't know anything about Shabbos,
Or you're brought up by
or you're brought up by Goyim, whatever it is, so then you actually are not chayiv at all. Right? Which the concept would be, why would it be not chayiv at all? Someone said it before. Onus. It's onus. Right? It's onus. Why you can't be considered responsible. If I studied Shabbos, so the assumption is I have a responsibility to remember what I learned. Right? No one can ever say that I went through a red light because I forgot that I can't go through a red light. Right? Even a young driver, they could probably, but it's not good.
You have training. You
Right.
have training.
You have training. So what I'm saying, they got nervous. They went through. I forgot a red light means this. I forgot I'm supposed to stop at a yell. Whatever the law is, right? I can't turn on a hill, right? Though you could argue that, but ignorance or forgetfulness is not a reason to be potter, right? So therefore, I'm chayiv some minimally, which is at least one chatas. But a person who never learned it, right? You never learned how to drive. You never got a license. You can't be charged with driving recklessly. Maybe you could. You probably could.
We haven't got good examples.
You probably could. All right, but you understand what I'm saying. So these are different kinds of theological examples.
In the civil law, they don't hold by these things.
Correct. That's true because they're all laws that we have to learn. Correct. Okay. Okay. Now we have a very long brisa. Or I'm not sure, it's actually a brisa, and we're going to have to try to fit it into Reish Lakish and to Rabbi Yochanan. Okay? So I think before I do that, because it's going to introduce to us Tanoim, it's going to introduce to us a Tana called Munbaz. Munbaz, okay?
From India.
I don't know, he's not from India. He's a member of one of these, maybe of the Queen of Adabin, I think. He himself, I think, was a ger. So he lives in the time of Rabbi Kiva. We have Rabbi Kiva, we have Munbaz. So it's going to complicate things, try to make Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish and Rav and Shmuel fit into our Mishnah and also fit into the opposite opinion, which will be Munbaz. So before I do that, I think maybe I'll just spend some time talking about Tinok Shenishba. Okay? Because we're going to leave, because Tinok Shenishba, you know what it is, but I just want you to have a sheet put out that really kind of summarizes a lot about Tinok Shenishba and the applications. So maybe we can do that now, and then we'll get a fresh start, running start on the Munbaz story. There's one for you and there's others here. Okay. Okay. Munbaz is not a made-up name. Monobaz.
I'm sure it's not.
You actually can Google. You can look at him in Wikipedia.
I never doubted it. It's true.
Okay.
That sound.
Mooncatcher.
One of the participants in the shir had never heard of the Mooncatch dynasty.
Oh, the Mooncatch.
Yeah. So he goes to the Mikey Street office and said, "What do you mean you catch the moon?"
Oh no. Mooncatch was a big city.
For real, about this past shot.
I like that, moon catchers.
Yeah. My mother lost a Mooncatch. Okay.
My grandma was from
Maybe they knew each other. Who knows? All right. Anyways, so this is about Tinok Shenishba. The Tinok Shenishba, once again, the modern application is really to Jews who are not keeping traditions. Whose responsibility really is it? What are they considered? Are they considered apostates? They use a very harsh term. Are they considered non-believers? Are they considered which at one point they would have? Right, because you had a very closed society, correct? Or are they considered that they don't know, or they never learned? Now, even if they learned, because it's such an open society, it doesn't really sink in. Okay, so for example, let's see the case here. So there are two sides. I'm going to start with the side with it says Daf Yomi Digest. Okay, on the right side. Okay. So this is going back to Rabbi Shmuel. There are many questions that arise regarding how to relate and deal with a non-observant Jew who is a category of Tinok Shenishba. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was asked about offering food to such a person. What's the problem with offering food? It's kosher. The halacha is in Orach Chaim, there's prohibited to provide food to a person who will not recite a bracha upon it or will not wash his or her hands before eating bread. So you say, well, don't give him bread, okay? But they still have to make a bracha. The Ramah adds that there are those who hold that if the receiver is a poor man, we can be lenient and offer him food or as tzedakah without ascertaining whether he will recite brachas. The Mishnah Berurah points out that the words of the Ramah only when we're in doubt when he will say a bracha or not. But in this case, we will not dispense with the mitzvah of tzedakah based upon our uncertainty. In this case, we will not dispense with the mitzvah of tzedakah based upon our uncertainty. Therefore, give tzedakah, and you don't know what's going to happen. However, if we know for sure the person will not recite a bracha, then it's not allowed to offer the person food, offer food to this poor man, even if it's an opportunity to give tzedakah. Okay? The Magen Avraham clarifies that by offering food to one who will neglect to say a bracha, we're in violation of lifnei iver. Okay? We are not allowed to assist another Jew to violate the halacha.
Does he know he has to make a bracha?
Well, you have to teach him.
Yeah, but meantime you start.
Okay to starve.
Okay, so the poor man might starve. Right, correct. But in other words, but the issue really, I'll tell you what the issue is you invite someone over to your house. And you want to impress with them the beauty of Shabbos and this. I don't know. You want to talk to them about this, and you know what? You always have to break bread, or if not break bread, serve food. And if you hit them over the head and say you can't eat the food until you make a bracha, if you don't agree to make a bracha, you can't eat the food, and he's going to walk out on you. He'll say, "What are you talking about? I don't even believe in God."
What kind of religion is this?
He's going to say, "What kind of religious is? Right, what kind of religious is that? Your God is more important than my food."
Yeah, right.
So that's what the issue is, okay? So you'll see when I turn it over in a moment. So therefore, the mitzvah of giving tzedakah does not outweigh our being in violation of lifnei iver. However, this is only when the recipient will not recite a bracha due to his negligence or due to evil or rebellious intent. There you go. Our providing food to him would be aiding his defiance. However, if the person does not say brachas due to his ignorance, we can give him food even if we know he'll not say the bracha. No, ignorance does not only mean he doesn't know. He doesn't understand why you got to say a bracha.
That's right.
So therefore it's okay. That's what we're saying, it's okay. Let's calm down.
I don't see how the other one works either.
Because in the society where everybody made a bracha, when you didn't make a bracha, if you live in a town in Europe, and everybody made a bracha, and you didn't make a bracha, you were making a statement.
No, he's saying, or the guy would say, oh, right, I'm not going to make a bracha. Okay,
I don't believe in this.
So the guy has certain problems at the time. Okay, so you're not helping him by just throwing him out.
Right, but so
we don't want you here.
We don't throw him out. That's exactly right. So you see, the person doesn't understand what a bracha is, so you feed him. That's exactly what we're trying to say. Rabbi Moshe writes that offering food to a non-observant Jew would hinge upon our discussion of the Gemara. Rabbi Shmuel considers such a person as an unintentional sinner and would therefore be prohibited to offer him food because the lack of observance is still considered sinful. However, Rav Yochanan and Rish Lakish hold such a person is honest. He's acting out of coercion, so to say, which is without guilt. Our assisting him would not be a lifnei iver. And in conclusion, however, Rav Moshe would seem to be more stringent in this case. There are others who are less stringent. Okay, turn the page over. The one on the other side is a bit better. Okay. Maybe it presents both sides, I think. Okay, so this is about the one we just learned. It even goes a little further in the Gemara which we didn't get to yet, which is about munbaz, which is going to be very similar to Rish Lakish and Rav Yochanan, what we just did. You'll see. So we're going to do the top half of the page. Regardless of whether Tinok Shenishma is exempt from an atonement offering, that's a korban chatas, altogether, or is liable to bring at least one offering, his responsibility and his guilt is far less than that of a person who was brought up in a proper Jewish environment. So contemporary halachic literature explores the application of this principle of Tinok Shenishma to modern times. Many of them follow the approach of the Rambam, who categorizes children who were raised among elements of society that were heretical as Tinokot Shenishma, worthy of Kiruv. And specifically, right, the Karaites.
That's what you're
right, correct. So notice the Rambam lived in an era where the Karaim, right, and nonetheless, most Karaim were Karaim because their parents were Karaim,
right,
right, and not because they necessarily believed in Karaitism over Rabbinicism. That's just what they learned. So therefore, you view them as ignorant people. Okay, same thing. A person who doesn't keep mitzvot, they don't do it necessarily. Some may do it because they're rebellious. Many of them probably do it because that's what society says you're supposed to do. People don't think. So Rav Yitzchak Ettlinger, the Aruch HaNer, suggested that it's possible to extend this line of thinking in regard to the Karaites, to Jews raised in modern non-observant environments. As a result, he suggests that the contact of modern non-observant Jews with wine may not render it forbidden to drink, as the contact. right, as the contact with observant Jews who are as the contact of non-observant Jews who are not categorized as tinok shenishba would be. Because if you look in the Middle Ages, for example, a machal Shabbos was considered regarding wine. It's not yayin nesech, but it's considered like he's out of the parsha, he's out of the Jewish community. So they would say that a non-shomer Shabbos person was committed stam yenom, right? So in other words, there would be an issue not only with non-Jews, could be an issue about non-religious Jews. So the Aruch says that may not apply to today. Nevertheless, Rabbi Moshe Feinstein writes that Jews who are not observant Torah mitzvot in our age bear more responsibility than the Karaites that were the Rambam's concern. Unlike the Karaites who had no interaction with the observant community, many of today's non-observant Jews have had such interactions and are knowledgeable enough of Torah and mitzvot that they cannot be categorized as tinoko shenishba. So that's a concept you can argue back and forth.
Depends where you live.
It depends where you live, correct? Because in Eretz Yisrael, sometimes politics gets very mixed in with religion. And sometimes it's hard for people to set aside what is really the religious values from political values. When I was in Eretz Yisrael, I think I told you I davened in a number of Sephardi shuls, and one Friday night I went specifically to a Sephardi shul because the Sephardi chief rabbi, this is the son of Rabbi Ovad Yosef. What's his first name? Yaakov Yosef. Okay. Yaakov Yosef. Rav Yosef, who was the present Sephardi chief rabbi, spoke. The reason he spoke is because town elections are coming up. Area elections are about to happen. So the first thing is they're fixing all the streets, right? And the second thing, they're trotting out all the big political people. He is a member of Shas, as was his father, who really developed it. The drush that I heard Friday night, and I'm not kidding you, you have to believe me, was that you have to give your kids a Jewish education. A good Jewish education. If you want to give them a Jewish education, you got to send them to a Shas school. That was the big Dvar Torah that he gave before Baruch Hu, Friday night in the shul that was packed, that people came to hear him. So I think there are other educational institutions and that may be giving a good Jewish education. But Shas for him was the best. But and you know what? And these Sfaradim, these Anshe Mizrach who are sitting there, say, well, if he says it's got to be true. Okay. So all I'm saying is that I walked out of there shocked. I have to tell you something. I came where I couldn't believe it because it was very direct,
Yeah.
But he's addressing this to us.
His own guys, his own people.
Okay, so you can go. So there are other Sephardi schools. First of all, there are other Sephardi schools that are made of Dati Tzioni. He's not Dati Tzioni. Excuse me. Second of all, there are other schools that are good. I mean, the value of determining whether it's a good school. I mean, like basically said that we have no bad kids in our schools. And if you go to the other schools, that's where all the bad kids are. First of all, there are no bad kids in the world. Second of all, but in other words, every kid is a good kid. No kid comes out of our schools that's not a good kid. Oh, come on.
This is a shot.
But I have to tell you, I did stand in line to kiss his ring at the end. Okay.
Did you really?
No. They Sfardim kiss. The Sfardim kiss. Not the ring. Not the ring. Okay. Just the phone. Okay. Kiss the hand. No. You shake hands and kiss it. Right. That's right. Well, it's not my minhag, but everybody else did. I didn't want to
Eastern minhag.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Anyways. By the way, just on a positive note, the nicest thing that I really ever saw is for L'chado Day, they don't turn around and face the door. They were actually facing where the sun was setting. So then they were facing towards probably Jerusalem, which is probably, but it wouldn't be, maybe it wasn't towards, it was actually facing towards Yerushalayim. Right, but out the windows. They were facing towards the windows.
Doesn't it set in the west? Right?
So it doesn't. So it may not be.
Where were you?
We were in the north, so it wasn't facing towards the setting sun. We're facing towards the window, which is really facing south, which is towards Yerushalayim. I'm sorry, okay. But standing facing towards the window makes a lot more sense than facing the back of the shul. We can't see anything. And the other thing is they said L'chadodi at the very beginning. In the very beginning, after they sing Shir Hashirim. It's very pretty, very pretty. They go around the shul and have kids sing it, different people saying it. It's very mind settling to do. I know you come in Shabbos and you're rushing in, but they do it after Mincha, and then they do Kabbalah to Shabbos, and that caught me by surprise. I felt like a secular Jew for a moment. That they started singing L'chadodi at the very beginning before the other kapitel of Tillim. So anyway, so there was good news to be there, but I just wanted to tell you that sometimes in Israel, even if you hear about religion, it gets mixed up in ways that can be confusing. Okay, last paragraph here of Shmuel Halevi Wozner. There's a Shevet Halevi, right? In a similar vein regarding non-observant Jews in the land of Israel, where contact with observant Jews is prevalent. In another response, he defines anyone who is raised in a completely secular environment as a tinok shenishba. That the principle of diminished guilt even applies to heretical beliefs, not just to sins committed out of ignorance. Hence, many non-observant Jews in our day are in a category of tinok shenishba, and it would behoove us to demonstrate love and kindness towards them, and through Kiddush Shem Shemayim to bring them to tshuva. Okay, and you do have an impact, right? You do have an impact. Sometimes you don't see the impact, but it does. It's there, and you need to keep in mind about our need to reach out to Jews who do not understand fully what it is. So there is good reason to extend the tinok shenishba to Jews who are not, not yet religious or not presently religious, because they don't really know it. Even though they know about it, even though they see the shul and they see you going to shul, it doesn't strike them that it can apply to them. Okay. So we'll stop here, and next week we're going to continue. So keep this chart with you, only because it's going to remind you about 2AB and 3AB, and we're going to introduce Munbas to you next week. Okay, and it really gets a little more complicated.